Green bars, green bars, green bars. Probably a good thing to check for and make sure is working before you stream for 20 minutes with no sound. Again, yeah. So I'm bringing my main computer back. Let's just get this refocused and get this into manual focus so it's not bugging out half the darn time. This camera tends to have a problem with that. So what is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay. So I set up a Bluetooth speaker that has a microphone that counts as a recording device. And so because of that, threw off all of my sources in OBS. I forgot to set, they all went back to default. I forgot to set them back to explicitly being declared. And so I streamed for however long that was with no sound. Again, just these things that I haven't done a lot of. So you take your hard knocks while you're trying to learn stuff and things along those lines. So we're in the just chatting category today because of the seriousness of the discussion that I want to have. I want to talk about these angry Twitch affiliates out there. And this is something I wish wasn't a pattern, but it is over and over and over again. I've been keeping an eye, particularly with regards to our discussions on content creator baggage, the things that hold you back as a creator. And stuff that affects how other people perceive you. So in terms of managing your image, so to speak, these are the ways in which you lose as a content creator. And one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on when it comes to content creator baggage is just who is one way on Twitch, YouTube, whether in videos or streams, and another way on something like Twitter. Now, Twitter has a bit of an issue. Oh, thanks, Stream Elements. Finally caught up with me starting this back up again. Took you long enough. A little slow, aren't we there, Stream Elements? So, here's the thing. I wish this wasn't a pattern, but it's a pattern over and over and over again, and I've seen it in argument after argument after argument on the internet, and of course, I've seen more than my fair share of arguments on the internet. And so, again and again and again, time and again, I see somebody getting enraged on Twitter, giving Mr. Trump a run for his money from back in those days. And I look at their Sully gnome and I see, oh, look, small affiliate. And even in partners, too. The people that are the most wound up, whether affiliates or partners or even that little stage in the middle that I like to call affiliate plus plus, where you're a Twitch partner but your numbers are so small that there are Twitch affiliates that still have more concurrence than you. Again and again and again, I've seen this so many times, and I'm just done with it at this point. I'm just going to grab the popcorn and watch these people not get anywhere and continue to prove me right. These people who get emotional, the more emotional people get, the more antagonistic people get, even if they're right, the smaller their audience. And I think what this is a fundamental demographic failure, so to speak. People really need to realize that these platforms like YouTube and Twitch are very largely viewed as recreational. So there's going to be a recreational bent, so to speak, in a lot of the people that watch. Now, you can find some fellow hotheads who 100% agree with you, otherwise they get banned, and grow a channel that way. But, it's just like politics. Who are the biggest voters? Who's the biggest voting blocks in the country? People with the least wound up opinions about things. People that will vote for a president because they're the tiniest bit liberal or the tiniest bit conservative. Or they'll vote for a president because he has a nice smile or a nice tie or something like that. These are the people that are out there, and bottom line, they're people and their voices count too. And I've certainly been in more than enough dogmatic movements over the years, both political and religious, to have seen more than my fair share of people that wish that there was no such thing as democracy, that their word was law, and that everything they said must be perfectly executed because they are right and everyone else is wrong. Seen tons of that over the years. And because of that, and having seen it from such a wide variety of sources, I know full well that it's not anything special. It's not something that, it's not something that you're not going to see elsewhere. Just because you encounter it once doesn't mean you're not going to encounter it again. And it's how you know that you're getting up there in years, so to speak, that you encounter enough of this stuff from enough different sources that you realize many times when you have people being antagonistic jackasses to you, they're not necessarily the problem as much as it is the behavior. And the behavior, quite frankly, isn't special. One of the best things that I've ever done for myself, not just as a content creator, but in the offline world in general, and in understanding just what kind of people are out there that I'm probably going to encounter if I keep encountering people, even at things like regular jobs and stuff. One of the most useful things I've ever done is taking the time to learn about cluster B personality disorder. Various disorders where people behave a certain way and they treat others like garbage simply because of how their brain is wired. I mean, there are few things in life that will settle you down as somebody who's been abused by these kinds of folks than finding out that it's a documented condition that is not specific to the people that caused you problems. You can encounter it anywhere, and those people are not special. Those people would love to get you to think that they are special, but the truth is they're not. And that's the way it is here. Let's talk about some of these tweets too. You're not a god just because you can ban someone. Also, banning someone easily reflects negatively on you, regardless of the reason. Now, if the people who have blown up on Twitter and blocked me because they prejudice my opinion had taken the time to see where I'm coming from, they might have taken the time to actually try and figure out why I would say something like that, as somebody who's been on YouTube for 15 years and seen plenty of trolling and plenty of personalities come and go that just banned everyone who disagreed with them. These days on my channels, usually someone will get banned for spamming. That's really the big thing people get banned for. You really have to cross the line into really negative behavior to the point where I start thinking about getting law enforcement involved before you get banned. There's a couple of cases, and these people are becoming less and less common. There's a couple of cases where somebody will show up, blow up in my face the old-fashioned way. I'll be like, okay, see ya. Because the people I want in my audience are the people that think about how they come across to others. And the people that try to understand the other guy's perspective, so even if they disagree with them, they can disagree with them in a civil manner. Probably the best thing I've heard from American politics in the last several years is this idea that President Biden talks about that really got me rethinking a lot of the way I view things. And that's this idea that just because I disagree with somebody does not automatically need to make us mortal enemies intent on destroying each other. But that's sadly the world that we've wandered into. The tiniest little disagreement you have, they are the enemy. They must be destroyed. Blah, 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 blah. How did we get to this point? This is human civilization we're talking about here. Human civilization, and we can't even be civil with one another. How did we get to this point? It's crazy. People don't realize just how much they're outing their personalities through their social media posts like this, or through their actions. There is such thing as nonverbal communication. And I've seen this thing with Twitch affiliates time and again. The angriest people I see on social media, if they have a Twitch channel, are affiliates with small amounts of concurrence. And then you look at their lifetime concurrent growth, they're not growing on Twitch, which probably creates a manufactured misery cycle of doom, so to speak. So they're angry about not growing on Twitch, but they keep exhibiting behaviors that keep people from wanting to follow them, and they keep not growing and keep getting angrier, rinse, lather, repeat. And where does it stop? That's the thing. So when it comes to the you're not a god just because you can ban someone, I said ban specifically as opposed to block, because the issue was not because of Twitter. It was actually an incident involving SFan over at SFan TV on Twitch. There was a situation with him and Ginny where Ginny was trying to sneak up on him and somebody blew the lid on the joke in his chat. And he's like, I'm going to ban you because you snitched. And I'm over here like, between SFan and Ginny, they have at least 10,000 concurrents. 10,000 concurrents, which if you know the difference between concurrents and viewers, concurrence is an average number, so their audience was probably much bigger than 10,000 people between the people coming and going at any given point between both of their streams. So even though it was SFan Radio, so maybe smaller than normal, we'll say it rounds up to 10,000 because Ginny's at like 10,000 and SFan's like 500 on his alt channel. So with that many people watching, was there really not going to be some idiot somewhere in the chat that was going to try and blow the lid on the joke? I would have roasted the guy. I would have been like, oh, look at you ruining all our fun. Look at this guy. Boo. Or something like that. Really? But when you go on this banning spree, like, oh, I'm a mod in 5 different chats. I'm going to ban you from all of them because of this. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. It's that simple. What this does is, even if you're right, it makes you look bad. Because there have been streamers, one of whom is Greek God X, who I don't watch, specifically because of an incident where he didn't like somebody in chat A, and he bans them from chats B, C, D, E, and F, even though they don't even go there. And word got back to Asmongold, and he had to chime in on it, because I think Asmon was one of the people who was affected by that. And I'm like, look, my choices in terms of who I want to watch on Twitch are between somebody who does that and somebody who doesn't. Guess who wins? And don't forget, I'm the low-hanging fruit, as usual. Someone like me who actually comes out and says this, we're a vocal minority. For every person that's like me, there are lots of people out there in the Twitch community, as it were, who will just quietly make that decision and not actually say anything about it. So take that and apply it to somebody who is friendly on stream or in their videos, and this raging agent of vengeance on Twitter or Instagram or somewhere else. How many people are going to quietly walk away from somebody like that, and their audience won't grow and their fan base won't grow because of this? This is why I bring this up. I say angry Twitch affiliates because it has been such a consistent pattern for weeks now. And after predicting again and again and again that people would block me and make a big thing out of it this week on Twitter, I've decided, I'm going to run into these people. I've seen enough examples now to where I'm just going to grab the popcorn when they're blowing up on the internet and then wondering why their channels aren't growing. Just going to sit back and watch because it's fun being right, quite frankly. So again and again and again, I've seen people starting all these arguments on Twitter. You look at their Sully gnomes and their numbers are terrible. They're not growing. Maybe they're trying to do the old YouTube thing of being a contrarian and trying to grow through controversy. But what kind of audience do you think you're going to attract if you're growing through controversy? I'll give you a hint. It's not a good one. I've been around this scene long enough to have actually seen people try to grow their channels that way and it not work out. And they end up just leaving YouTube. Probably happens on Twitch too. But with regards to this, that's why I wanted to bring this up. And that's why I wanted to not have any music playing or anything. Just do some just chatting type thing to just clear the air on a lot of this. Because you always got to look at what exists in the world at large and not just what exists in your head when you ban somebody. Most of the people that get banned from my channels are spammers. If there are people that just show up, they explicitly show that they really don't care and they're just trying to start fights, they'll get banned too. But those people are becoming less and less common. And quite frankly, I do actually pay attention to the viewpoints of people I very sharply disagree with. Here's a couple examples. I don't agree with Devin Nash on a lot of things, and I quite frankly think he's spreading misinformation about the Twitch affiliate program. Do I insta-ban him because of that? No. Because in order for me to properly counter and come up with better ideas than some of what he's tossing around, it's good for me to know what he's saying from his own words. Because if I don't do that, what I do is I create this construct in my head of the way I think he is, and that, of course, could be wrong. So, no, I am going to wait for Devin to say what he says before responding to it. And quite frankly, it's a very common pattern. He's a marketer. He's a CMO. He's into marketing. He tends to gloss over technology a lot. And his latest discussion about platform splits on YouTube does exactly that. Again. And you know what happens when you disagree with somebody and you start to get to know where they're coming from? It stops surprising you when they're rambling on about the same thing over and over again. When they do the same things over and over again, it stops surprising you and you stop being as harshly affected by it. Because, oh, look, again, and we already know how to shoot this argument down, so to speak. Another person who I sharply disagree with is Trainwrecks TV. Squad W? Ha! We go our separate ways like nobody's business. I'll still see what he has to say about things to see, number one, if he ever changes. Same thing, another reason too, by the way, to not instantly dismiss these people is see whether or not they come around to your side over the years and you still believe in the same thing and they used to disagree with you, but they're sounding like they don't disagree with you as much. You will not get that if you prejudice their opinion and instantly write them off and try to cancel them. So, and a lot of this really goes back to what President Biden talks about, is this whole idea of we've stopped really listening to each other. We instantly write someone off as a mortal enemy the minute there's even the tiniest disagreement. And there's just way too much of that going on in this country and on the internet in general around the world. Way too much of that. The only way we're going to move forward and get better is to be able to actually handle our differences maturely instead of instantly, I'm going to ban them from everything because of this. So yeah. The reason I say that banning someone easily reflects negatively on you is because it makes, as much as it gets someone out of your chat or your comments or whatever, it also makes you look like you can't handle people that disagree with you. And by extension, diversity. Because there is diversity based on protected characteristics like ethnic origin, things like that, gender, and whatnot. But what you're going to run into at least as much, if not more in some cases, is a diversity of opinion. You're going to run into that person who you think is 100% in lockstep with what you believe, and you find out they're not. Now what do? They're 85, they agree with you 85%, but disagree with you on one little detail. Now what do? That's the thing. You will run into diversity of opinion just by virtue of probability, even if the other ways in which you can, not run into diverse types of people all play out. So at minimum, you got to be able to handle disagreements you're going to have with others in a mature, respectable fashion. And so, well, what about the trolls? They don't do that. Well, fine. They out themselves. Done. But I sometimes wonder how many of these people are just goofing around on the internet at age like 19 or something. What's going to happen to them at age 29? Will they perhaps have learned a few things since then? Because I can tell you, one of the first ways I learned about logical fallacies and things like no ad hominems, no ad populums and stuff is by going to college. If you had me on here at age 18, it would have been a very different experience. I might have even gotten banned by now because I just didn't have any idea how to argue. I was all emotions, no level-headedness. And it took some formal training to actually get me to the point where I could actually not instantly overreact to everything that upset me. Whether it's learning about logical fallacies in college or learning about cluster B behavior when I had basically had my career destroyed by people that were too narcissistic. Yeah, my last tech-related job, working with analytics and databases and stuff, I chose to leave that because of what I called cultural problems at the time. I've since thought about everything that went on and narrowed it all down to specific individuals and narcissistic behavior. And most of the people that went along with all of that are gone now. So, that's the thing. Time marches on, even if the people that disagree with you are long out of the picture. And it's been interesting, too, to watch some of the very same people that caused all those problems for me now come out on the wrong side of science when it comes to the pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, I figured there was something up with them. It's just, these are the people, the reason why YouTube has a medical misinformation policy. So yeah, you got to think about, for example, same thing too with calling people out on your shows. Yeah, you're not letting people walk all over you, supposedly. You're not letting people walk all over you, blah, blah, blah. But at the very same time, what are you making yourself look like? Are you making yourself look like somebody who's just more and more turbulent, more and more upset, and more having to hide who they really are from platform to platform and failing at that more and more? Because you think about it, one of the worst things about being different people on different platforms is the fact that many creators out there are encouraging people to visit other platforms. Now, how many people actually do is part of the whole conversion ratio issue. How many people actually do is part of that whole situation. So, but ultimately, The people that like you more and aren't just stopping by for one stream or one YouTube video, who are more likely to become, better fans of what it is that you do, are going to be the ones checking out your other social medias. And when they discover at that stage of how much they like you as a fan, as opposed to just a member of your audience, when they discover your cloak and dagger side on social media B after being introduced to you on social media A, what do they do with that? It's not somebody who has gotten to the point where they really like what you do, to the point where they're going to, work past that difference. They're just going to go watch somebody else. Streaming in particular is a very, very winner-take-all environment when it comes to not having baggage. If somebody outs themselves as having baggage, I'm going to switch to the person who doesn't have it. And many times they'll be bigger, they'll stream for more hours, they'll have more interesting things to talk about, and I'll understand why they're bigger than their contemporaries. That's the thing. That's the thing. So your little Twitch affiliate, you get angry at every little thing with all your 20 concurrents and you only stream 3 days a week. Well, it's near effortless for the people who haven't found a reason to stick around for whatever reason. And why would they? If you look like the kind of person that would ban them if they breathed wrong, it would be near effortless for them to just go off to a much larger creator who is far more professional. And then you advance to the point where you want to start applying for Twitch Partner. What's one of the things that Twitch looks at when they decide whether to partner you or not? Your professionalism. Well, now. And how does that affect this anger volcano, as it were, where you just make yourself angry because of things you're doing, and it just makes you angrier and angrier and angrier? When you get to the point where you're like, I should be partnered on Twitch. Twitch is saying you're not professional enough. You get even angrier at that, and you're even less professional, and so the vicious cycle continues. Yeah. This whole being professional thing, it really matters. Let's take Ginny, for example. Very professional. Even when she's upset, she keeps things professional. And she does an extremely good job of dealing with what people do in her chat when she's at 9,000 concurrents and the chat just is flying by. And even the donos are almost like every other second. So you get somebody who will ban you at the tiniest little thing with only 20 concurrents. Why should you even bother with them? No, you'll just join the crowd watching someone who's very accomplished, very successful, very professional, and keeps a cooler head. That's what I'm talking about. It's one of the problems with streaming. Streaming is tied to time slots. It's tied to people wanting to watch you live more than literally anybody else out there, and what's on TV, and what's on YouTube, and what's on Facebook, and what's on everything else. You give people even the tiniest reason to walk away, don't be surprised when they do. And then you get angry about it, and it becomes this vicious cycle. There you go, game over, game, set, match. Little wonder why again and again and again, the angriest people I see go to their Sully Gnome, boom, Twitch affiliate. More so than YouTube partners, people trying to become YouTube partners. And that's why I wanted to bring this up tonight. I just wanted to clear the air on it and talk about it and get the word out there. This will go to YouTube as well, of course. But, there are some times in online media where doing the right thing will keep you small. Like if you curate your audience so it doesn't get too toxic. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a situation where something you do wrong keeps you small. And the question is, do you ever decide to acknowledge that and get better at it? Or are you just going to keep banning everybody who disagrees with you even the tiniest bit? Excuse me. Once upon a time, there was an attitude that I had towards MySpace going back. One of the things I saw before Facebook depression became a thing, where people were talking about how folks censor their lives so it looks like it's much better than it actually is, and it gets people with actual problems, at least now, that aren't hiding their problems, upset. But I remember in the MySpace days when they took over from having personal web pages for a bit, One of the things that I used to talk about is social media as a form of an e-shrine to yourself on the internet, where you built this e-shrine, essentially this temple of worship, as it were. And whatever you did, whether it was blog posts or pictures or whatever, it's all about you. All about pumping yourself up. All about putting yourself on a pedestal. I don't think that has gone away with the demise of MySpace. I think the e-shrine mentality is still out there, and you're going to find people with followings who are all, ha ha ha, yes, you're right, all the time, because they don't want to get banned, among other things. Or maybe they agree with them. But I don't think the e-shrine thing went away. Keep in mind, though, when you're losing over and over and over again to bigger streamers who are more professional, it's because of what you're doing. The way you come across to others. Those little things related to social skills that, quite frankly, based on what President Biden is talking about with us needing to stop instantly hating each other just because we disagree on something, is something we all have to think about. So yeah, angry Twitch affiliates is a pattern. It's a pattern, and quite frankly, it's a misunderstanding of how streaming works. The moment I have a large professional streamer who keeps things professional and doesn't ban at the drop of a hat, that's the person that I'm going to watch in many cases if I'm Joe Regular out there who doesn't really know who to watch. And especially when they start having run-ins with people who are more emotional and they do more of this stuff and they make that decision because they're like, you know what? My free time isn't worth being worried about someone else's problems and someone else's baggage. My free time is not worth it not being fun because I'm too wrapped up in the community of somebody who can't keep things professional. And so they change who they're sub to, they change who they follow, and guess who gets all the traffic? And it just adds on to this persistent problem and this huge gap on Twitch between the haves and the have-nots. Why do certain personalities effortlessly get thousands of concurrents? Dean, thanks for the YouTube sub. Wow, woken up by my own alerts. So, yeah, why don't we just pause him and we'll play him back at the end of the thing. Hello, wake up. Yeah, me with these stupid little monologues. I set myself up to be jolted like that with this. But that's the thing, streaming is a very winner-take-all environment. Let's turn that back on. I'm also surprised because my OBS is signed into Twitch, so I don't see any of the YouTube stuff right now. So, anyways. Now, here's just one last thing on that, though. Streaming's very winner-take-all, quite frankly. And so, if there's even the tiniest reason for people to not watch you, they're not going to watch you. It's that simple. And I can tell you that when it comes to these Twitter arguments and things like that, just because someone disagrees with me and blocks me doesn't mean that other people can't agree with me afterwards, because that's how Twitter works. Twitter is unique in update social media in the sense that I can't blow away a discussion with a disagreement. I can't blow away a discussion with a disagreement by deleting my original post. It's only going to delete my post, not everybody's reactions to it. So there's no way to cover your tracks by deleting stuff. And that, I think, is what makes a lot of people upset who get in over their head and then they're like, what am I going to do? So, people can judge me for how I handle things, usually with lots of smileys, because I don't want to go out and start fights everywhere I go. I'll get people's gears turning in terms of trying to get them to think about something. But if you look at the drama tubers and whatnot, many of these people I could name drop, you probably know who they are. I don't want to be like them. Because, what they say, those who live by the sword die by the sword. It's a figure of speech. You go out of your way to tick people off, well, you're going to be successful, and that's going to have consequences. People are going to be ticked off at you. And when you've been involved in this stuff for 20, 30 years, do you want to look back and see that you never really built anything yourself? You were always trying to tear others down? Depends on what kind of person you are. But if you're like me, the answer is probably not. I've been through more than enough of these situations on YouTube to know better. It's just that nowadays, with all these people out there who are looking at Twitch the way people used to look at YouTube back in the day, it's only a matter of time before more people start waking up to this. The question is when and if ever. So you got people that are in their 20s, they're overly emotional, and it's hurting their ability to grow as personalities. What happens when they hit 30 or 40 or something? Because that exists. It's just that Twitch hasn't been around long enough to have more gray-haired streamers. Yeah, YouTube is kind of the older folks' platform. That's why I joked about it with the whole thing when Twitch was talking about the new harassment policy. And I'm like, hey, come join us old people over on YouTube. Hey, speaking of YouTube, the reason why I'm here on Twitch a lot is because I'm working on this synthwave stuff that I'm using from the Stream Beats collection that Harris Heller does. I want that to be my music until some newer stuff comes out in 2021. Get away from the YTAL for a bit and NCS for a bit and give Stream Beats a whirl. So I got to work on a new channel intro to basically use that music to introduce my channel on YouTube. I'll probably send it over to Twitch as well. So hope this is giving you folks some things to think about here. Look, if I ever say anything on social media or in a video or in a stream that upsets you, if you want to become a better person and be able to handle controversy better, before you do the knee-jerk reactions, do some digging. Look at the stuff I talk about. Look at the intellectual background that I have with formal education and stuff, and the professional background I have in corporate America for years. You know, look at the lessons I've learned over the years as I, like everybody else, have made mistakes, and try and understand where I'm coming from. The minute you start being successful at understanding where I'm coming from, even if we disagree on something, you'll have worked on developing a skill that will help you immensely with all kinds of other people out there, including the people who don't keep things as professional as I do. So, and once you realize that certain people who behave a certain way are that way, and it's just, oh, they're not special, it's like water off a duck's back. You'd be like, yep, seen it before, know about it, nothing all that exciting. You know, do I want to deal with them or do I just want to block them or something? But what I won't be doing is making like a sport reference. I won't be talking like a sports guy about blocking people on Twitter, because I know that'll have consequences too, with exactly the kind of people that I want to attract. If I'm like, I ban people, I block people, and this goes back to even before I started streaming. You know, with the whole thing with What's-Her-Face with Guild Wars 2. Who got let go from ArenaNet because of some incendiary tweets that she was involved with. She openly bragged on her profile about, well, I block often. So you see, nothing new to the tune of years. Because that happened years ago at this point. See? It's not special. Nobody who does this stuff is special. But it does still negatively affect you. Because you start getting a reputation for being that way. Let me actually take a look at, put this on Twitter. Let's mute Twitter too while we're at it. Does she even still have a... Let's see. I block often. Yeah, it's still there. It's still the same old stuff over and over again. I can look at this Twitter. Close it. I can look at this Twitter and it's the same thing even though it's years later. See? There you go. These people don't change. Or you can give them a chance to change, but doesn't mean that they will. Nothing new under the sun, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing new under the sun. As the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, that which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. Point is, when you learn these lessons, you should act on them. It helps make you better as a creator as well. So yeah, the cycle of anger and whatnot that I see from these people, I don't expect it to stop. And I expect the names and faces to change over the years, but the problem to stay the same. Question is, what can I control out of all of this? So I'll keep watching. You know, at this point, I've seen enough hotheads on Twitter that I pretty much know what to expect. Probably can go look at their Sully Gnome and see really low concurrence or whatever, and see them just get more and more frustrated because they're not getting anywhere. And they'll never acknowledge the reason why that's happening. Meanwhile, I can show you big streamer after big streamer after big streamer who should have all the moderation in the world because of how huge their audience is that doesn't even have a rules list on their Twitch page. How does that work? Maybe because these people have figured out that you don't really need one, that by the time you have an account on Twitch, you are already saying you agree with the community guidelines and ways you're supposed to treat each other on Twitch. Yeah, so no need for redundant stuff because the Twitch TOS already covers a lot of that. And heck, Twitch has rolled out that new harassment policy. So that's all of that is in effect, and Twitch will enforce things based on that before you ever write a single rule on your channel whatsoever. So the minute you do, it makes you look like that you are incendiary and whatnot. So it actually backfires in terms of what you look like to the very people that you want to cater to in order to get them to stick around and grow your fan base. So, boy, we sure have talked a lot, only to end up talking about demographics all over again. That word I cannot get past no matter what. C'est la vie. Such is life. I have a YouTube channel intro to work on tonight. Want to thank the folks who stopped by and watched, the quiet ones and whatnot. And I also want to thank, the people that may check this out if I make a YouTube video about this as well. It's good to be open-minded about stuff and actually try and figure out where the other side is coming from. That way you know exactly what you're talking about when you try and find ways to shoot down the argument. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.